Hello, it's all kicking off here in Exeter at the Met Office HQ. Heavy showers breaking out right now at the time of recording. We've got torrential rain outside and even some flashes of lightning. You might just be able to make out a very faint flash of lightning from my mobile phone shaky footage that I took a few minutes ago, and some rumbles of thunder. So lots of excitement here at the headquarters of the Met Office, and you can see on the rainfall radar here, showers are breaking out across the southwest and beyond across the UK. We've got showers across Wales, Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. So that sets the theme for this week's deep dive. It's all about the heavy showers and thunderstorms. Where are they going to occur over the next few days? Why are they happening? What are the kinds of conditions that will favour showers in some spots versus other spots? And is there any sign of anything drier on the horizon? We've just had 2 bank holiday weekends. I think if we're to be kind, we could say that the weather was fairly mixed for those bank holiday weekends across the UK. What about this upcoming weekend? And what about beyond? Any sign of anything drier for a more prolonged period of time, or will we continue with this very changeable weather we've seen throughout spring so far? I'll be covering all those topics in this week's deep dive. Thank you for joining me. If you like these, of course, we do them every Tuesday. Do hit like, leave a comment. If you want us to cover certain topics in the future, let us know and we'll try and get back to you. And also, of course, you won't want to miss more of these sort of things in the future, so hit subscribe and it'll help us to justify doing these sort of more in-depth, longer explainers about the UK weather. Now, one thing that people have been asking for in previous deep dives in the comments is for more technical understandings of why the weather is as it is. And so I'm going to get a bit more technical right now, and I hope this will be relatively easy to follow. I want to describe the profile of the atmosphere as it was observed earlier on in the day today, because it's a cracking little observation that we had from a weather balloon at 6 a.m. from Larkhill in southern England. And this shows what it observed through the atmosphere. So this basically shows its observations of temperature, dew point and wind speed going up in altitude from the surface down here up, way up into the stratosphere at the top. And it shows the temperature. Now the temperature lines are diagonal, so this is the 0 degree point running diagonally, and the reason is because if they were vertical, then this would be really leant back and more difficult to visualize, so it helps to tilt that upwards and it's more manageable then. So that's the 0 degree line, and that shows where the red line there, the air temperature, goes below 0 at approximately 10,000 feet by the looks of it. You won't be able to make out the numbers, but it's around about 10,000 feet at the moment. It goes below 0. And of course, the atmosphere gets colder as you go up until you get to the top of the troposphere. That's the lowest layer of the atmosphere. You get the tropopause, and it's at that point that the air really dries out, and you also see the air temperature rise, or at least flatline, and that's how you can make out the top of the troposphere. So virtually all of our weather happens in the troposphere. That's in this part of the atmosphere. And what you can see here is the blue line as well as the red line. The blue line is the dew point. Now, where the blue line and the red line are close together, that means the air is more saturated. It means there's a greater chance of clouds. And so what you can also tell from this is not just the temperature and the dew point of the atmosphere, but where the clouds are likely to be, where these lines are virtually touching. So some layers of cloud in the lowest layers, and then where these lines diverge, you've got drier air. So for example, at around 12 to 15,000 feet, much drier air. And then at the top of the troposphere, where the red line starts to increase again, that's where you've got much drier air. And so really that's the very top of the cloudy part of the atmosphere. If you're in a plane, you fly above that, you fly above the clouds, you're into the stratosphere. Now, one other thing that these are really handy for is by seeing how unstable the air is. And so as the air temperature decreases with height, if it decreases quickly with height, so this whole thing is lent further backwards, further towards me, if it's lent towards me, then that means the air is more unstable, because essentially you've got colder air on top of warmer air. That warm air rises much more quickly. And one thing that we can do to help us see the instability of the atmosphere is to put on something like this. It's known as a construction, and what we do is we put on a construction, and this imagines that the air at the surface is being heated up through the day, and then it begins to rise because the air begins to warm up and warmer air rises through the atmosphere. And warm, unsaturated air rises at a rate of 9.8 degrees per kilometre, and that's what this line here shows. It shows the air cooling at a rate of 9.8 degrees per kilometre. But at some point it becomes saturated, because it rises and it cools, and then the air becomes saturated at a certain point, and it's that point that the cloud base is, because the air begins to condense water droplets out of it. But also the air parcel then, as it's rising, it rises at a slower rate, because now it's saturated. The water vapour, as it condenses, takes energy or adds energy into the system. It's known as latent heat. So it adds energy into the system, and it's at that point that it starts to cool at a slower rate, and that's what this dotted line is. It starts to cool at a slower rate. So it rises, condenses, you get the cloud forming, and then it keeps rising as long as it's colder, as long as it's warmer than the temperature line here, the environmental temperature. As long as this dotted line is to the right of the air temperature, then it's going to keep rising, because it's going to be continually warmer than its surroundings. And it's only at this point that it cuts back in, and it's the same temperature as the surroundings. Now this is an interesting one, because it's rising at a temperature of 19 degrees. It goes up to, say, around 5,000 feet or so. That's where the cloud base forms. But then it keeps rising at a lower rate, because it's now following what we call a saturated lapse rate rather than a dry adiabatic lapse rate. Those are the technical terms. But it keeps rising nevertheless at that slower rate until it cuts back in and it becomes the same temperature as the surroundings, as observed by this weather balloon earlier on today. So what that tells us is the cloud base will be about 5,000 feet, but then it will carry on upwards to 25, 30,000 feet, and that's how we get a cumulonimbus cloud. The air rises, it condenses, but it keeps rising, and you get this enormous towering cumulonimbus cloud all the way up to the tropopause. And it's that air that we've got in place that we can see from the radiosonde, from the weather balloon earlier in the day. It's that air that we've got in place that is very unstable, and that's what's leading to some heavy showers and thunderstorms. That was a bit of a bumbled explanation of that, but hopefully you followed some of it at least. Let's take a look at some simpler matters, and that's the jet stream, because at the moment that is to the south of the UK. That's why the weather is fairly changeable, fairly unsettled, quite unstable at the moment. Now we've seen a weather front cross the UK during the last 24 hours, and now we've got this low pressure approaching from the northwest, but in between, if we just take off the pressure pattern, in between, we're in this upper area of low pressure, this dip in the jet stream. And that, over the next few days, will continue to affect us. And so this is going into Wednesday, and we're in this elongated dip in the jet stream, and that's leading to quite a lot of showers over the coming days. Now, what happens heading into Thursday? Heading into Thursday and into Friday is that we'll continue to see that dip, but eventually this streak in the jet stream will come along, and later Thursday that will tend to cut off this dip, and eventually this dip will sink away to the south. It will still provide some of this instability to southern parts of the UK on Friday, but into the weekend the jet stream now to the north of the UK, and this ridge of high pressure toppling in from the northwest. And you can see the dip in the jet stream now over the continent, and that's where it's likely to stay into next week. And so that's why actually into next week it's going to turn increasingly unsettled across central parts of Europe, whilst the UK with this ridge of high pressure toppling in from the northwest, will become increasingly settled, although not entirely dry, sunny or hot. So that's how the jet stream's moving through over the next few days, often to the south of the UK over the next few days, with an upper area of low pressure leading to that rising air throughout the atmosphere. And when combined with the jet stream, and when combined with the surface pressure pattern, you can see on Wednesday an area of low pressure bringing an occluded front in from the west. That's going to bring some cloud and showery rain in through the first part of Wednesday, and then that crosses east to bring widespread showers on Wednesday. And into Thursday, we've got the combined efforts of the jet stream dip, a surface area of low pressure as well, and that will lead to quite a number of showers on Thursday. But by Friday, this ridge of high pressure is moving in. The dip in the jet stream moves over the continent and over southern parts of the UK, whilst further northwest things do quieten down. Things do tend to turn drier and brighter for a period, but not necessarily through the weekend, because by later Saturday and into Sunday, this weather front's going to start to move in. More on that in a moment. I want to, first of all, look at where the showers are likely to form over the next few days. Let's take the cloud off. In between the showers, there will be some sunny spells, but the main focus over the next few days is for the showers. Rest of Tuesday, it's southern and southeastern parts of the UK where we're going to see these very lively downpours, thunderstorm warning in force. And then into Wednesday, let's pause it there, because you can see after a showery start in the west, a brighter start in the east, those showers form widely across the UK once again. Now, in some places, the showers will form along what we call convergence lines. So what that means is where the winds come together in a line, and that can be caused by a couple of things. Sometimes it can be caused by sea breezes. So for example, if you've got winds coming in from the let's turn on, oh, it is on. The winds coming in from the west across most of the UK, but then you've got a sea breeze, which sometimes forms on warm days at this time of year. Then the winds on the North Sea coast will begin to come in a different direction. You've got these westerlies meeting easterlies, and where they converge, then you've got this extra oomph in the atmosphere, this added boost to form the showers, and they form where those winds converge along a line. And that's why on days like Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday, you're likely to see in some places these lines of showers forming, and shower after shower, it will feel like more persistent heavy rain in those places. Other places will entirely avoid the showers. So for example, some of these western coasts on Wednesday, with the breeze coming in from the west, are likely to, after some showers early on, likely to be drier and brighter into the afternoon. So when on days like this, where we've got a lot of instability that could be released in the atmosphere, when we issue thunderstorm warnings, they inevitably have to cover a large area. So for example, Tuesdays is across East Anglia and the south of England, but thunderstorms don't happen like that. They happen in random, well, fairly random places sometimes. Sometimes they happen in these very localised convergence bands where the winds meet. And so inevitably, some places will have a thunderstorm warning and won't see any action through the day whatsoever. That's just how it goes. It's a risk of thunderstorms when we put these warnings out rather than a guarantee. This is how Thursday looks. Let's play that forward a little bit. And again, you've got showers starting in the west and then developing quite widely. You can see the speckled nature of them there. It's just going to be very hit and miss with the showers and the thunderstorms over the next few days. Increasingly, they'll be focused across central and eastern parts of the UK into Thursday. And then by Friday, well, initially we've got showers clearing away from the east, but also some persistent cloud and some dampness coming into the southeast. But by the afternoon, there's the potential for some lively showers to become established across southwestern parts of the UK. Again, could see some of these lines of showers, these convergence bands taking place. One or two showers elsewhere, but actually by this stage, increasingly it's looking fine. Plenty of sunny spells coming through. One exception, eastern parts of the UK, where there will be some low cloud about on Friday, especially early on and then later on. And into Saturday, some of that low cloud persisting first thing across eastern parts of the UK. Some mistiness near the coast, but that will tend to retreat towards the coast on Saturday. Plenty of bright skies developing inland. I think northwest England, parts of Wales, western Scotland seeing the best of any sunny spells through Saturday. And it's going to feel pleasantly warm as well. So temperatures are rising over the next few days into the weekend. Let's take a look at a few graphs here. London, for example. We're going to have this dip as the showers take place later this week, and then back into the high teens by the weekend. I think 20 Celsius is possible in one or two spots this weekend, or even a touch higher on Saturday. But yeah, it's looking like a fine start to the weekend. Plenty of sunny spells for many. However, I mentioned that weather front that's coming in towards the end of Saturday. Now this is a slow-moving feature. We've got higher pressure across central parts of the UK, and there's some uncertainty about the timings of that weather front, but for most of us it's going to turn up later in the weekend, and for some places it's going to turn up on Monday rather than through the weekend. So the fine weather continuing longest towards the southeast. This is what we call a spaghetti plot for obvious reasons. Now the top panel of images is from the Met Office ensemble suite of models, and then the bottom set of images is from the European model, the ECMWF model. And each of these show for a different computer model run. So this is at midday on the 7th, and then 12-hour intervals with the more recent one at midnight last night at the far left there. It shows where all these different computer model runs have plotted that weather front, and the timing of this is for midday Sunday. So what you can see is that the forecast is getting a bit clearer over time. Loads of spread there for the midday run on the 7th from the west of Scotland down to the south of England. But by the time we get to, for the Met Office ensemble output, all these different runs are suggesting it's across Scotland and Northern Ireland, with only one or two showing it further south across England and Wales. Also, on the bottom, we've got the European model. Again, a lot of spread there a couple of days ago, but more recent models have it basically across Scotland and Northern Ireland. However, there's still this spread, there's still this timing error, whether it's from, to the northwest of Scotland, or whether it's across, say, Edinburgh into Dumfries and Galloway by midday Sunday. So there's some uncertainty about the progress of this front on Sunday. And ahead of it, there's likely to be some showers developing across central areas. But either way, for much of the weekend, it looks like it's fine for the whole of the UK on Sunday, after a bit of a cloudy start for some, and then into Sunday, a fine start before a band of rain tries, albeit slowly, to push southeastwards across the UK from the northwest. Now, into Monday and much of next week, that front is going to make its way southeastwards, and it's likely to bring some heavy rain or showers increasingly towards the south for Monday and Tuesday. And the main signal for next week, and this is from the European model, and this averages the pressure anomaly compared with the climate for the time of year for next Monday through to the following Monday. And this basically shows a bit of a signal for higher than normal pressure extending away from the Azores into northwestern parts of the UK. So this would suggest higher than normal pressure through next week for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, and then about average for southern parts of England and South Wales. With lower pressure, I showed you that the jet stream cutting off and forming a low over central parts of Europe, so this signal for lower than normal pressure over somewhere like Italy to bring some wet weather there. Likewise, if we look at the temperature anomaly through the same period, we've got higher than normal temperatures most likely, extending all the way from the Azores into Scotland, Northern Ireland, northwest England, about average temperatures for the rest of England and Wales, although there's just a hint there of some blues for the southeast, because for the start of next week at least, we've got that showery rain, and we've also got a bit of a cooler breeze from the east for a time. So next week starts off cooler for many, particularly towards the North Sea coast and the southeast, and then some warmth as that higher than normal pressure leads to a lot of fine weather, especially towards the northwest. This isn't to say it's going to be completely sunny and dry through next week. It just suggests, compared with the climatological conditions for the time of year, we've got slightly more settled weather than you'd normally expect towards the northwest, and fairly average conditions further south. So still some showers about, and still some longer spells of rain here and there, but mostly the signal through next week is that there'll be a lot of generally fine weather about. There'll be some warm sunshine coming through at times, and in places, particularly towards the northwest, it will be a touch warmer than average for the time of year. So mid to high teens, perhaps low 20s here and there. But there'll be much more detail on that in the coming weeks, of course. We'll keep you updated right here at the Met Office. If you enjoy these updates, please do hit the subscribe button, as I mentioned, and you won't miss any of the future updates that we'll do. And yeah, thank you for joining us. See you again soon. Bye-bye.